So I told you last week we finished Egeres Hakodesh.
The shadow of the phones.
B'Seyata D'Shmaya. And Egeres Hakodesh has 32 prakim, 32 chapters. And of those 32 chapters, 15 of them are about tzedakah. The truth is, 16 of them are about tzedakah. But one of them, why am I saying 15 and not 16? Because one of them, even though it's about tzedakah, but as we know, a lot of the letters that we have that are printed in Egeres Hakodesh are excerpted from larger letters. So the piece that we have doesn't talk about tzedakah, although the letter is a letter about tzedakah, but it doesn't. So really, 16 of the pieces are originally about tzedakah, but in what appears in the Egeres Hakodesh, we have 15 about tzedakah. So what I wanted to do is go through these 15. I don't know if we're going to manage to finish all of them today, and just to get like a snapshot and see how the Alter Rebbe used tzedakah. And Bashkacha Pratis, we're here on Erev Rosh Hashanah, literally Erev Rosh Hashanah, about to usher in a new year. L'teiva l'vracha for Klal Yisrael, Mitzvah year of Geula and Yeshua, for everyone, Geula of Klal Yisrael, Mashiach should come, and also for everyone who needs a Yeshua in a personal way. It should be a year of brachas for everyone. But there's this very special connection between tzedakah and Rosh Hashanah, and the reason that, especially tzedakah, is explained in the Egeres Hakodesh, because one of the large underlying ideas in almost all the letters that we're going to be talking about over here, if not all of them, is that almost all of them is that there's a concept in Chassidus called Isarusa de Latata, Isarusa de Le'ela, which means awakening from below causes an awakening from above. And essentially, pretty much, what we're looking for Hashem is Hashem's chesed, Hashem's kindness. We want Hashem to give us what we need, to give us our sustenance, our livelihood, our food. And in order for us to have that, we need to make a shirusa de latata. We need to have an awakening from below. And that is when we do chesed, when we give others, when we have rachmanas and chesed and give to others, then we, so to say, we activate that switch and we cause Hashem to reciprocate in kind. And in Egeres Hakodesh, Alter Rebbe is going to talk about all different types of hashpois and all different types of things that we're looking for from Hashem, physical, spiritual, and how everything is activated through us giving tzedakah. What's the connection between this and Rosh Hashanah? So this is something that we've spoken about in the past, in terms of what is the idea of Rosh Hashanah. In fact, in one of the letters in Egeres Hakodesh, in Siman Yud Daled, which is a letter we're going to be talking about whether this week or next week, it's a letter about tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe there talks about Rosh Hashanah, and what is the deeper meaning of what is Rosh Hashanah? So we know Rosh Hashanah is the day we say Zeh Hayom Tchilas Masacha. This is the day when everything began. And the obvious question that's asked on this, and many, many different Amarim Chassidus, is what do you mean Zeh Hayom Tchilas Masacha? What do you mean this is when it all began? This day, the beginning of your work. We know Rosh Hashanah is the anniversary not of the first day of creation, but of the sixth day of creation, the day when Adam Rishon was created. So how can we rightfully say Zeh Hayom Tchilas Masacha? And the nekuda of the answer is that we know that everything, in Yiddishkeit, we know that everything every year reoccurs. Yom Me'ila Nizkarim V'nasim every single year. So, what happened in the beginning of creation is that Hashem created the world. And why did Hashem create the world? So, the reason is, Ki Chafetz Chesed, the Eibishter wants to do Chesed, and therefore He created the world. And the ultimate act of Chesed, the greatest act of Chesed that ever was the creation of the world. Because chesed, by definition, means that you're giving to someone or to something that doesn't deserve it. Because if the person deserves it or earns it in any which way, that's not chesed. That's din. Right? Midas hadin. When my boss gives me my paycheck, that's not chesed, that's din. And if he doesn't give me my paycheck, I can take him to a din Torah and demand that I'll pay din, he has to pay me. That's not chesed, that's din. Chesed is when you give to someone who doesn't earn and doesn't deserve. When Hashem originally created the world for the first time, think about it for a second. Did we earn it? Did we deserve it? We couldn't have earned it. We couldn't have deserved it because we didn't exist. So, what? We weren't there, right? So, if chesed is, the definition of chesed is a unilateral act, which is not in any which way evoked by another. But this is simply because of my desire to chesed. The ultimate act of chesed was Hashem's creating the world. And that's what Hashem did 5,784 years ago.
Who was the chesed that Hashem, who was the beneficiary of the chesed? All of mankind from Adam Rishon until now?
All of creation, whatever he created was an act of chesed.
So it's like simultaneous, because the beneficiaries of the chesed are the creations of
Correct.
the chesed.
Correct.
It's Hainuhach.
But the very act of creation was a chesed.
Even though there was no one there at the time.
Right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. This is like, Gite v'yadei bayin ka'achas, to
Yes.
use,
Yes.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a unique chesed because
Yeah.
There's no recipient at a time that he did chesed.
Correct. Which is why it required chesed, because there was no one to. Now, then Hashem, on the sixth day of creation, Hashem created Adam Rishon. And at that point, Hashem turned to Adam and said to him that, that which happened 6 days ago, I created the world, and that was my act of chesed. That's the last time that that's happening. Because from now on, I'm instituting in creation the system of Yisrusa de Latata, Yisrusa de Leila. From now on, everything, including the very act of creation itself, is going to need to be elicited by you through your avodah, through your awakening from below. And on the first day of his creation, the Medrash tells us that Adam Rishon gathered together all the animals, and he said, "Bayu nishtach v'nichra nivracha lefnei Hashem Eseinu." Let's bow down, Hashem. And then we had Hashem Malach Geus Lavish. That then Hashem, but that was because Adam Rishon went and accepted upon himself the Malchus of Hashem. And that's what we're doing every single year on Rosh Hashanah. And every single year on Rosh Hashanah, we're not commemorating the first day of creation, because that's when Hashem did the chesed. On Rosh Hashanah, we're commemorating that first day when Adam was created, because that's when we gather in the shul, and we're trying to do the same thing again. We turn and say, we're asking Hashem to create the world for another year. We're asking Hashem to be the Melech over Am Yisrael, and by extension over all of the creation for another year. And the whole point of Rosh Hashanah is this idea of Yisrusa del Tata, Yisrusa del Leila, that we need to, that the fact that Hashem is the king, if Hashem is going to be the king over the world for another year, that's going to be something which we are going to stimulate from Hashem, and that's why we blow the shofar, and that's why we daven all of this in an attempt to get Hashem to agree to be the Melech over the world and to create the world for another year. So, very related to the idea of Tzedakah, we're talking about in Egeres Hakodesh, because it's all working on the same system of Yisrusa de Latata, Yisrusa de Leila, the idea that whatever happens above, we need to cause that from here, from below. So, the first letter in Egeres Hakodesh which talks about Tzedakah is Siman Gimel in Egeres Hakodesh, which is on page Kuf Dalet, opposite of page 206, which begins with the words Vayilbash Tzedakah Kesiryan, which means that Hashem, He wears Tzedakah like armor. What's the connection between Tzedakah and armor? Why is Tzedakah compared to armor? So the Rabbi explains that in general we have a rule that Schar Mitzvah B'hai Alma Leka. That in our world there isn't there's no reward for mitzvahs. Why is there no reward for mitzvahs in our world? Because the ultimate reward for mitzvahs is Sevav Kalman, the infinite light of Hashem, which transcends all the worlds, and our world can't in any which way handle that kind of air, that kind of light. But what's interesting is that even though that we say that Schar Mitzvah B'hai Alma Leka, we know that we say every single morning at davening, we say that Elo Dvarim, that Adam Eichel Periseim Be'elam Hazeh V'Karen Keyemes Le'elam Haba, that there are many different things which we say that we enjoy the dividends of it in this world, but the principle remains in the next world. And basically, the list of things that we talk about there, almost all of them are Gemilas Chesed, are Tzedakah. So when it comes to Tzedakah, for whatever reason, Tzedakah is the exception to the rule. Tzedakah, we say that we do have the reward for Tzedakah here in this world. And why is that? So that we have the pasuk Vayilbash Tzedakah Kesiryan. But what does armor look like? So in the olden times, the way armor was, there's also a word for it. I think it's called mail link armor or something of that sort. It was made up. A person put on, it was like a robe that was made up of like chains, tiny little links. What? Metal links, tiny little metal links. If you want, you can go up and look it up on the internet. They'll put in a old-fashioned armor, and you see pictures of it. It was very heavy. But the reason for the purpose of it is not because it wasn't just straight metal, because straight metal has no flexibility to it whatsoever. So it's flexible because it's made up of all these links. But also at the same time, because it's metal, so therefore it protected against arrows or any other weapons that would come. But ultimately, because it's made up of links, so therefore there are a lot of different holes, little holes in it. Tzedakah is like armor, because the way that Rabbi explains it, there is the body of Hashem. The body of Hashem, the guf of Hashem, is in the world of Atzilus. And that's where, when we do mitzvahs, the light of Silberberg, and it enters into the world of Atzilus. We talk about, obviously, you might be wondering, what does it mean, the body of Hashem? But we say in Pasach Aliyah, right? Chesed roi yamina, chesed is Hashem's right hand, gvura roi smala, chesed gvura is Hashem's left hand, teferes gufa, teferes is the body, netzach v'hoid are the two legs. So we see that's the guf kaviyachol, obviously not physical, of Hashem. And Hashem's body is, so to say, covered by armor, which doesn't allow that infinite light to enter our world. But tzedakah, in tzedakah, the armor has holes in it, allowing a little amount of that light to enter into our world, as a result of which, that we receive the reward for tzedakah, not the main reward, not the primary reward, the payers saying the dividends we receive in this world. So in this letter, the Rebbe is basically telling the Chassidim that you should know that every single mitzvah, the reward awaits in the higher worlds, awaits till Mashiach comes. The only mitzvah where the light of Hashem filters down into this world, Bizman Hazeh, in our life over here, is the mitzvah of tzedakah. Now, you could say the greatness of that is that we get the reward here in this world, but in a deeper sense, what that means is that the light of Hashem, the fact that we get the physical reward in this world is a manifestation of the fact that the spiritual light of Hashem enters our world, and that is the ultimate reward of tzedakah here in this world. That is Siman Gimel. Then we have Siman Daled in Egeres Hakodesh, which is the next page. It's the next letter that the Alter Rebbe talks about tzedakah, and that begins with the words Ein Yisrael Negalin Ella b'tzedakah. That the Geula comes through tzedakah. What's the connection between tzedakah and the Geula? Why, of all mitzvahs, do we say that in order for Mashiach to come, we need to have tzedakah? So the Alter Rebbe in this letter, he defines what is Geula. That's an interesting question. If you had to define what is Geula, what would it be? So most of us would say no tzaddis.
Say it again?
What is Geula? How would you define Geula? Sorry? Right. And what is the...
That's understood.
What is the spiritual definition? What is the difference between Geula and Galus? The spiritual, in what way is the spiritual reality different in a time of Geula than today?
Everyone knows about Hashem.
There is no hester upon it. There could be a lot of different answers. The way the Alter Rebbe defines in this letter, he says that every single one of us, in terms of the love that we have for Hashem, there are two different types of love that a person can have for Hashem. There are two different types of love that a person can have in general. Forget about for Hashem for a second. One is a logical love, and one is an essential, beyond logic love. For example, the love that a parent has for their children is not a logical love. It's beyond logic. What do you mean? Does that mean it's illogical? It doesn't necessarily mean it's logical. It could be logical to love your child, but you don't love your child because of the logical reasons. It's much deeper than that, and which is why people will do absolutely crazy things for their children, because the love isn't based on logic. That's what's called Pnimiyas Halev. There's Pnimiyas Halev and Chetzenis Halev. Chetzenis Halev is I love, but there's a reason why I love. I love because. Whenever it's I love because, that's already a logical reason, and then the love isn't so powerful because it's only as strong as the reason for what it is. But then there is an essential love. Geula is when that Ava from the Pnimiyas Halev that every single Yid has for Hashem is revealed. Where we walk around with this incredible, powerful, passionate love for Hashem, a beyond logic, a super rational love for Hashem, which is, it's called Geula because every single one of us has it deep inside of us. The only thing is it's in Galus. That love which we have is in Galus. Geula is when that is revealed. This will happen when Mashiach comes. And it's also something which we try to experience on a daily basis during davening. Davening is the geula time of the day. And Alter Rebbe says that this is also the deeper meaning of bris milah, of milah. That there's an orla. We know that the pasuk says about there's an orla on the heart. Right? The pasuk says umaltem es orlas levavchem. We have to remove the orla, the blockage from the heart. There's another pasuk which we had just last week. Umal Hashem alikecha es levavcha Hashem, which is a reference to the geula. That Hashem will. That means that the heart, there is that incredibly intense feeling that every single yid has for Hashem, but there's that orla, there's that blockage which doesn't allow it to be revealed. And geula is when that orla is removed, part of which we have to remove, because that's why it says umaltem es orlas levavchem. Part of it Hashem needs to remove because we can't remove it entirely on our own, and that is what geula is all about. How do we go about doing this milah? How do we go about bringing the geula? Both the geula in a general sense, when Mashiach comes, and the geula also, the daily geula which we experience during davening. How do we have that? So Alter Rebbe says that the answer to that is through tzedakah. Through tzedakah. What's the connection? Why through tzedakah? Why is it that we can't feel this illogical, I don't like the word illogical, this higher than logic essential desire for Hashem? And the reason why the Alter Rebbe says is because that part of the heart has been hijacked. Instead of having it towards Hashem, we have it towards Olam Haza and the pleasures of Olam Haza. We chase money and luxuries and pleasure and all the other things that the world has to offer in an illogical way. No, it's not logical. It's not what we need. It's more than we need. And that's why that essential love for Hashem of ours can't be revealed, because again, that love has been hijacked. So what do we do about it? How do we get everything in this world? How do we get all those pleasures that we're looking for? How do we get them? With money. Money is the key to pleasure. When we take that money, and instead of using it on pleasurable things, instead of using it on things that bring us pleasure, we take it and we give it to tzedakah, we give it to Hashem, we're removing the hijack. We're removing the hijack and allowing now the pnimius of the heart, instead of being meshubed, instead of chasing Olam Haza, for it to be going towards Hashem. And that's why Ein Yisrael Nigalan Ela B'Tzedakah. That's why the geula comes through tzedakah, and that's the geula, the general geula. It's also the geula pratis. That's why we give tzedakah before davening, because we want to experience a little of that geula when we daven, and ultimately, the ability to experience this tremendous ava to Hashem comes about through giving tzedakah. That is Siman Daled. The next letter on the topic of tzedakah is the very next one, page 212. Siman Hey Egeres Hakodesh Vayaz David Shem. So there the Alter Rebbe brings down what it brings down the Zohar, that it says that Vayaz David Shem, David made a name. So on a simple level, what does that mean? He made a name for himself with his heroic exploits. But the Zohar says that if you look a few psukim later, it says Vayhi David Oisa Mishpat Tzedakah, that David did justice and tzedakah. And the Zohar says that through the tzedakah that David gave, he made a shame. He made what shame? He made Hashem's name. And obviously this is a mysterious statement. The Zohar says, Man Ovid Shmo Kadisha B'chol Yoima, who is the one who makes Hashem's name on a daily basis? Man Diyoiv Tzedakah L'Mishkani, the one who gives tzedakah to the poor people. Yeah. So what does this mean? So Alter Rebbe explains that Chazal tell us that B'Yud Nivra Olam Haba and B'Hei Nivra Olam Haza. That the Yud was, that Hashem created Olam Haba with the Yud of Hashem's name, and with the Hey of Hashem's name, Hashem created Olam Haza. And this is actually a long letter with a lot of Kabbalah in it. Basically, the point is, the Yud is Hashem's Chachma, and the Hey is Hashem's Malchus. And the entire flow of all of creation, everything begins in the Yud, and and everything ends in the Hey. Everything begins in the Chochmah and ends in the Malchus. The question is, in the higher levels of creation over there, the Yud is more felt. In the lower levels of creation, the Hey is more felt. But that is the flow. The flow is that the light of Hashem enters into the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. And our world was created with the Hey. With the Hey of Hashem's name. And after explaining this dynamic and the mechanism according to Kabbalah, which is obviously beyond what we're going to talk about today, the Alter Rebbe says, imagine you have a wise person, a great sage, and he's able to contract all of his wisdom into a single letter. I mean, let's start. Imagine a great sage is able to contract his wisdom into a 1,000-page essay. A 1,000-word essay. That itself would be an incredible accomplishment, right? What if he's able to put it into a 200-word essay? How about a paragraph? How about a sentence? How about a word? How about a letter? It's something which boggles the mind. And yet here we have that Hashem, he contracts all of his wisdom, his Chochmah, into a Hey, one letter, the Hey. Our entire world is Hashem contracting its energy into one letter, into the Hey. And that's all of our world, all of creation, of Elam Hazeh comes from that. And the obvious question is, why would Hashem be willing to do this? Why would Hashem be willing to make this massive contraction of his light all into the Hey in order to create our world? And the answer is, because we give tzedakah. Because when we give tzedakah, we're giving. So then Hashem also, he does the same, and he contracts his energy into all the way into the Hey. And the way the Alter Rebbe explains it, you have over here a partnership between the Talmidei Chachamim and the philanthropists, those who give tzedakah. The Talmidei Chachamim, they're connected to Hashem's Chachmah. So they're the ones who they bring the Eir of Hashem into Chachmah. But to bring that light all the way into the world, from the Yud into the Hey, into the Vav, and into the Hey, and ultimately into our world, for that we need the people who give tzedakah, and through them, they were able to bring down the Eir all the way into this world. And now we understand what it means when the Zohar says, Man Ovid Shma Kadisha, who completes Hashem's name is the one who gives tzedakah. Because without giving tzedakah, Hashem's name wouldn't be complete, because the light would never make its way all the way down, would never contract itself all the way down to make it all the way down to the last Hey in order to create our world. So ultimately, the completion of Hashem's name is through us giving tzedakah. Yeah, no, go ahead.
What is, in what you just laid out, this you sowed, what's specific about tzedakah, not the Torah, not davening, not other mitzvos? What about tzedakah accomplishes what you just said? You just made a kesher between that the tzedakah that the people do is connected to the Hashem contracting himself just to the
Right.
Hey, and I'm not sure what about tzedakah specifically is accomplishing.
Because tzedakah is physical. And if we want to be mamshich the hashpah of Hashem into this physical world, we need to give physical tzedakah. Torah is spiritual ultimately.
There are other mitzvahs. It could have been tefillin, it could have been tzitzis.
If you look what Alter Rebbe says over here, he says, Ella de Isharusa de Bali mitzvahs or Eskim Reiv Yemeim B'tzedakah or Gmilas Chasadim. Actually says, yeah. No, because tzedakah also has the quality of giving, and we're trying to get Hashem to give the light to us.
So the other mitzvahs, tzitzis and tefillin, let's say, are just, if I'm wearing tefillin, that doesn't do anything for anyone
It
else,
would
but
seem-
tzedakah is reaching out to others.
From all the different chapters in the Egeres Hakodesh, it seems that we learn Torah, we do mitzvahs, every single one of them elicits different types of energy from Hashem. But that energy would never make its way all the way down to this world without tzedakah. Tzedakah is like the mechanism. It's not even something of its own. It's what all the other energies that we're accomplishing through Torah mitzvahs, through tzedakah, we bring it all the way down over here. We slap it down over here. Because think about what is tzedakah. Tzedakah is you find a person, a nebach, who has nothing, doesn't deserve anything, and you give that person the money. And that, the same way we're schlepping down the energy from Hashem all the way to us, regardless of our miserable situation, etc.
Why not give me
That's greater than tzedakah.
Yeah, he says, Revi Meim B'Tzedakah U'Migilas Chosadim. Yeah.
Is it the idea that
Same idea.
Is it the idea that
Yeah.
we're emulating Hashem, just like Hashem, maybe compared to Hashem, we're in Nebuch, so when Hashem takes care of us, so too we take care of others, so there's some kind of dimion going
No,
on?
it works the other way around.
Oh,
We cause Hashem, not it's Hashem emulates us.
so when we take care of those less unfortunate, Hashem takes care of
Exactly.
us who are less fortunate.
Famous word to the Baal Shem Tov, Hashem Tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. They're just like a shadow that you pick up your right hand, it picks up your right hand. Hashem is our shadow. Hashem mimics us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Rabbi, something else. You said, Ani nechshav kamet. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
When you give tzedakah, you're rewarded, making a life.
That is true. And we're asking Hashem to give us life also. Yeah. Okay, moving on. The next siman is siman Vav. So we have here this is the third siman, the fourth siman in a row, which is talking about tzedakah, which begins with the words page 218. Zereat tzedakah secher emes. It talks about the idea that planting tzedakah and the reward for that is truth. And the obvious question is, what does that mean? What's the connection? And what does it even mean to have that the reward of something is truth? If I'm going to say, okay, you're a good student, I'm going to give you a reward. I'm going to give you truth. What does that even mean? And why is that connected to tzedakah? So the Rebbe here explains that in terms of our connection, our relationship with Hashem, there is a relationship which is emes, and there's a relationship which isn't emes. And we know that in Chassidus, when we talk about emes or not emes, emes and not emes doesn't mean true and false. Emes means something which is constant, never changing. It intrinsically and essentially is. And because it is intrinsically and essentially is, it doesn't change. Something which fluctuates, then by definition, it's not truly true because it doesn't have to be there. It must be contingent on some outside factors. Because if it was inherent, it would always be. Famous Chassidus always brings down, there's a Mishnah that talks about Mayim HaMachazvin. That for Paraduma, you're not allowed to use Mayim HaMachazvin. False waters. What are false waters? That if you have a stream that once every 7 years, if it dries up, so then it's puzzle for the use of the Mechatas. And it's called false waters. Why? If it stops once every 7 years. So in terms of our relationship with Hashem, our relationship with Hashem is comprised of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. So there is the midas, those feelings that we have that we generate on our own. We work on generating. Obviously, if we work on generating them, they're not a constant, they fluctuate. As we all know, today it's a little more, tomorrow it's a little less.
Mayim chosrin means that
Hamechazvin, Mayim Hamechazvin. Yeah.
the same show is like chozer.
Not Choser.
No, I'm saying mechazrim like chozer, but here it's a mechazrim with the stop.
Like Kazov, which means false, yeah. So, any midas which we have for Hashem are not emes. Which again, it doesn't mean that it's a lie, but it means it's not the ultimate emes. To have midas which are the ultimate emes, that Hashem has to give them to us as a gift. For me to have a relationship with Hashem which is consistent and never changing and doesn't go up and down and is an essential midas, that's something which I need to get as a gift from Hashem. And the only way to get that is if I'm o'eder rachmim. If I ask Hashem for rachmim, for Hashem to give me those midas. But the problem is, I'm going to turn to Hashem, I'm going to ask Hashem for rachmanas. But maybe when I'm asking Hashem for rachmanas, maybe that also isn't with an MS. And if it isn't with an MS, how's that helping me? So the Rebbe says, you know what the solution is? Give tzedakah. There's nothing more MS than tzedakah. Why is there nothing more MS than tzedakah?
If you help somebody, it doesn't matter what you thought about it.
Exactly. Famous story of the Alter Rebbe. Probably said it in the past, where there's a person was a philanthropist. And he came to Alter Rebbe, and he was really bothered. And he said to Alter Rebbe, I know I give a lot of tzedakah, but I feel it's not with an MS. I don't give with an MS. It's not for the right purposes necessarily. There's ego involved in it. And Alter Rebbe answered him, Aber der Oni werd zat mit an emes. Der Oni werd zat mit an emes, which means, but the poor person is truly satiated. That's the emes. You want to know about the emes? The emes is the stomach of the poor person is truly full, and that's what counts. And therefore, in terms of when we give tzedakah, that is the ultimate act of rachamim, which then evokes Hashem's rachamim, and then Hashem gives us emes, an emes, a relationship with Him, which is why the pasuk says, "Zereat tzedakah secher emes." That when we plant tzedakah, what is the reward? The reward is emes. The reward is a lasting relationship with Hashem, which is of an essential nature.
But we know that when Hashem gives somebody money, it's not his money, he's the shaliach. So we have to make the shlichut with him. When somebody rich gives money, Hashem gave him this money to be the shaliach of Hashem to spread the money.
Okay.
So if you don't spread this money with emet,
What does with emes mean?
with emet is you know who you're giving how much, to where you give, and that's the emet.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that.
It
We're,
doesn't matter if the poor person is benefiting from it. That's the end.
you're saying you have to make sure that you give it to the right people. That's correct. We're not talking about that. We're talking about is the intention emes. Yeah, we're talking about two different things.
Giving it to the right people is a different thing.
How do you know?
On the topic of
How do you know
this,
who's the right?
you have to speak to a Rav. So that now we go to Siman Ches. We skip one letter. Siman Ches is the next one on Tzedakah, page 224, which begins with the words from davening Zereat Tzedakah is Matzmiach Yeshuas. Once again, we have the idea of planting Tzedakah. What does it mean to plant Tzedakah? And what is this Yeshua that we're looking for? That through Tzedakah, through planting Tzedakah, we harvest what grows as Yeshuas. So the Rebbe says, we know the Gemara tells us that Eliezer, before he would daven, he would give first, he would give a coin to a poor person. Because the pasuk says, Ani b'tzadek echza panacha, which means that through tzedakah, echza, what do I get to see? What do I get to experience? Panacha. Panacha means Hashem's face, but the word panacha also is related to the word pnimius. I get to experience the pnimius of Hashem, a very high level of godliness. In fact, Alter Rebbe says that our goal is that during davening we should be able to experience a level of Gili Alakus, a level of experience of Hashem's light, which is even greater than that which is experienced in Olam Haba. And that is the Yeshua that we're looking for. Zereat tzedakah, we give tzedakah before davening, and the purpose is Masmiach Yeshua. What is the Yeshua? This tremendous echze panacha, this experience of godliness during davening. The problem is, Alter Rebbe says, yes, we know that there's a concept called midah keneged midah. And you can argue that midah keneged midah means that if I give a poor person oilam haza, I give him a piece of bread which gives him life in this world, so therefore the Eibishter will reward me with oilam haba. Okay, I get that. But you're telling me echza panacha, you're telling me that the reward for the tzedakah is even higher than oilam haba. That's not even midah keneged midah. Where does that come from? And that's why what do we say? Zereat tzedakah, that tzedakah is compared to planting. What is the idea of planting? What is the theory behind planting? The theory behind planting is that you put in a seed in the ground and think about it. What is this seed worth? Qualitatively, it's a piece of wood, right? It has no taste, it has nothing, you can't eat it, it's worthless, right? You throw it into the ground, and what do you get from it? You get from it a tree, a trunk, and branches and leaves and fruit. And how much fruit is this tree going to give? An infinite amount. Because every single year, and not only that, it grows fruit, and from those fruits,
Plant more trees.
right, so it's an infinite potential. So the theory of planting is that a tiny little investment yields you a yield, which a crop or harvest which is exponentially greater than that which you invested. And that Alter Rebbe says is the idea of Zereat tzedakah is masmiach Yeshuas. That when we give $1 to tzedakah, it's like planting. Why? Because the Yeshua that we get because of it, that experience during davening of Gili Elokus that we can experience during davening is exponentially greater than that which we planted, and that is why tzedakah is compared to planting, which is an incredible thing to know. Tzedakah, the reward for it, the spiritual reward for tzedakah, is exponential, which is why it's compared to planting. The next letter of Tzedakah is Siman Tes. Siman Tes isn't based on any particular pasuk or Maimer Chazal, but it's a very powerful letter where the Alter Rebbe gives us to understand. He's saying, most of us, we tend to think that we make money. Why do we go to work? Why do we make money? Because we need to support ourselves. We need to support our families. Oh, and by the way, if there's anything that's left over, so I'm also able to give a little tzedakah. Now, the Rebbe uses very sharp words. He says, he's talking about Beis Yisrael kachol hagoyim. It's the top, if you want to follow the top line on page Kuf Yudalet. Beis Yisrael kachol hagoyim, the chas v'shalom, that Yidden shouldn't be like all the goyim. The zanenu, mefarnesenu, meikren, l'neshayu, benayu ma'ava. That all they think about is to provide food for their wives and for their kids because of love. Alter says, no, ki mi ka'amcha ki Yisrael ge'echad baretz ksiv. Yidden, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, what we're involved is echad. It's all part of Avodas Hashem. We say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem echad. In the words of the Alter Rebbe. We close our eyes, we say Shema, and we open up our eyes. Did we forget everything that we said? When we go out into the world and for a living, suddenly we forgot about the Eibishter, and suddenly it's about our parnasa, about our wives, about our children. Alter Rebbe says, no. Chas v'shalom. Instead, the Alter Rebbe says, you should know. You're going to work is part of your Avodas Hashem. Why are you going to work? To have money. Why do you need money? Because you need to be like Hashem. And the words of Alter Rebbe, Shebazeh anu, the whole purpose, lahachyes nafshes chelki elokus, to be able to give life to neshamas, ulamalis machzireim bechesed chinam, and to fulfill their needs with pure chesed. Shebazeh anu medamin hatsura liyetza. This way we're just like Hashem. Hashem echad asher chesed kel kol hayom. That's shalamas. There's the idea of a dafka boy. We are supposed to try to cling to Hashem, emulate Hashem. Why do we go to work? What does Hashem do? Hashem is busy doing chesed all the time. He's giving. We want to be like Hashem also. So what do we go to work? We go to work to be able to have money. Why? To be able to give. So who do we give? So really everything is tzedakah. Every cent that we make is for tzedakah. The only thing is, that Alter Rebbe says, is that the only thing is, according to Torah, precedence you have to give to your wife and to your kids. Tzedakah, there's a scale on tzedakah. There's a order of precedence. And the ones who come first are a person's wife and children. Correct. But the very first ones is family. But the etzem, it's not as if there's money that I make for my family, then the rest I give to tzedakah. No, everything is tzedakah. It's a certain perspective, understanding that I'm going to work and the money is to give. Now the question is, I have to look in Torah and find out from Torah, where do I give? Okay, so first I give my wife and children. Then I have to give to the other poor people. But the perspective changes everything. The money, as you said, the money I have is not for me. The money I have is to give. The only thing is that Torah gives me guidelines about who to give. And then the Alter Rebbe continues in this letter, and the Alter Rebbe says, everything I'm saying was true, always was true. But especially in our times, Alter Rebbe says that unlike earlier on in times of the Mishnah, in times of the Gemara, then the main avodah was learning Torah. Because the neshamas were higher, the Shechina was in a higher place. We know, Alter Rebbe, we're coming up to Sukkot soon. We say, Harachman hu yakim lanu sukas David hanefelas. And something we've spoken about more than once. That how do you translate it? That we ask Hashem to Yakim Lanu should erect for us a sukkah as David, the sukkah of David. Hanefelas, which translates as that's falling. Not that, right? Hanefelas, not Asher Hanefula, which fell, or Asher Nafal. Hanefelas is in present tense. And that is because according to Kabbalah, sukkah as David is reference to the Shekhinah. And there's a galus hashchina, so the shechina is a galus, but it's not static. Instead, the shechina is going lower and lower and lower. And back in the times of the Gemara, so then the shechina was in a higher place, in the place of moichin or midos, and that's where the ikra avodah then was learning Torah. Today, shechina is in Maisa, and if I want to have access to the shechina, it's through giving tzedakah. And therefore, today in Ikshus the Mashiach, the Alter Rebbe says, the main avodah is the avodah of tzedakah. That is Siman Tes. The next letter, Siman Yud. a very geschmacka, one of my favorite chapters in the Egeres Hakodesh. Based on the pasuk Chastei Hashem Kilei Samnu Kilei Chalu Rachamav. Pasuk in Echa. I know it's a song, but it's also an Echa. Also.
The song came first.
Yirmiyahu did a little plagiarizing. You're saying.
I wouldn't say that.
Beautiful song, beautiful pasuk, but the problem is the word samnu. What does samnu mean?
Doesn't refrain, doesn't hold back.
We say it in, in simple Chasdei Hashem, that the kindness of Hashem kilei samnu, because they never cease, right?
Doesn't stop.
They don't stop. But we say something similar in Moedim. What do we say? Hatoiv klei chalu rachamecha, v'merachim. Do we say kilei samnu chasadecha? Kilei samu chasadecha. So in the pasuk Chastei Hashem Kilei Samnu, what's this extra nun over here? We should say Chastei Hashem Kilei Tamu. What's Kilei Samnu? What? Samnu. Chastei Hashem Kilei. You don't know the song?
Yeah, I know.
Good, but in Moedim we say Atayv Klechol Rachamech V'Merachim Kilei Samu Chasadecha. There's no nun. When you have a nun, not the nun is missing. The nun is added because you think into it. What is a nun? When you have a nun vav at the end, what does that imply? Plural, us.
No nun.
Right?
Yeah.
So samnu is almost like we don't cease. Rabbi explains that in terms of chesed, there are two different types of chesed. Zohar talks about is chesed v'is chesed. And in general, there's one chesed, there's a limited chesed of Hashem, and there's an unlimited chesed of Hashem. The Torah, which we have, is chesed of Hashem Takeh, but it's a chesed, which is a limited chesed. It enters into Gevurah, which is why we say miminoi, eish das lamai. Miminoi means the right hand symbolizes chesed. But then the Torah is called eish, and eish fire is Gevurah. And the answer is, Torah is chesed, but it enters into Gevurah, which is why all the mitzvahs that we have, pretty much all of them, are limited. Shofar has to be 1 tefach and a little, right? A lulav has to be 4 tefachim. A sukkah has to be how many tefachim, right? A mikveh is mem sah. There are limitations on mitzvahs. And by the way, so you can have a shofar, it has to be what, a tefach and a little. And what if you decide you want to take one of those Yemenite shofars and blow it? Did you do a bigger mitzvah? Did you? And if you toivel in a mikveh, instead of having 40 saw, it has 4,000 saw. Are you more pure because of that? No. So the mitzvah has a max. Every mitzvah is limited, and tzedakah also has a limit, 10%, 20%, right? But this is all the chesed of Hashem, which is limited because it enters Gevurah. But then there is the unlimited chesed of Hashem. So when we do mitzvahs, generally, we're bringing into this world the limited chesed of Hashem, which is fine, because that's what our world functions on is the limited chesed of Hashem. However, says the Alter Rebbe, what if a person did Egeres? I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are some people out there who have done Egeres. Not people in this room over here, but right? What? Other people, right? We don't judge, we don't condescend, right? But yeah.
Not before Rosh Hashanah. Come on.
So what if someone has done Averis? And the problem is that when you do every time, and by the way, even worse than doing an Avera is not doing a mitzvah. This is something which you spoke about in Egeres HaTshuva. When you do an Avera, so you make a stain on the lot. So you wipe out, you clean off the stain, you do tshuva. But when there's a mitzvah that you're supposed to do which you didn't do, there's a light which you're supposed to bring into the world that you didn't bring it in. What now? How do we fix that? How do we remedy? And the answer is, for that we need tshuva. Tshuva means that we need to bring into this world the infinite light of Hashem, the infinite chesed of Hashem, not the limited chesed. Remember we said the two types of chesed. And when you bring in the infinite chesed of Hashem, so that fills up everything. That fills up all, any what do you say, migroi is bakodesh, anything.
What is the unlimited chesed of Hashem?
You want to know what it looks like?
How do we describe it? What is?
It's a chesed which is,
Like you just said, that limited chesed, we have mitzvahs that have a certain measure. How can we understand the unlimited that we're talking about now?
How do we elicit the unlimited kindness of Hashem? Through giving tzedakah in an unlimited way. Unlimited way. What does it mean? Unkin cheshbonus. Not saying 10% or 20%, but you give and you give and you give, then you give a little more also. And when we give tzedakah without a limit, that's
Collecting stuff.
that's gemilas chasadim shebegufay.
You have a limit?
Whatever. That's not gemilas chasadim in money has a share, 10% to 20%. But that's according to halacha. So
How can you give stuff unlimited? You wind up collecting stuff yourself.
That's why it has a limit. It has to.
It's
That stuff is given unlimited.
that's your question. I thought you can ask a better question. How can I give tzedakah unlimited? There's no such thing as unlimited tzedakah. I don't have unlimited funds.
That's why I'm asking you, because you could come up with a better question.
So the answer is it's about a mindset. It's not, obviously we can't give unlimited funds. As opposed to people, okay, here I have my ledger, I give, how much tzedakah do I have to give? Good, I gave it. There's a limit to how much tzedakah I'm mechuyev to give and I'm giving. Tzedakah unlimited means you throw out your ledger, you throw out your book, you throw out the meiser and the chomish and you say, I mean, obviously we're not talking about, you can't give less. I'm giving until it hurts, until I can't give anymore, and then and even then I give a little more also. It's not about literally giving unlimited funds, it's a certain mindset. Someone who has done Egeres has to do that because you need, in order to draw down this unlimited light from Hashem into this world, you need to do a chesed. And that's what the pasuk, a chesed which is gleeful. And that's what the pasuk says. Chaste Hashem, kilei samnu. What is chaste Hashem? The chesed of Hashem, that's the unlimited chesed. We need to do chaste Hashem. We need to embrace that model of chesed. Why? Kilei samnu, because we're not complete. Because we've done Egeres. Because we've done Egeres, that's now we understand why it says samnu instead of samu. Because we've done Egeres, because we're not complete, therefore, we need to embrace chaste Hashem. We need to give tzedakah without any limitations whatsoever, which is why the Alter Rebbe says that, and that's why today we give tzedakah as much as possible, and then a little more. Okay, that is Siman Yud.
Stuff that would be included, if you loan somebody money for his, that he should be, make a panosah or to have a livelihood, have his own livelihood.
Sorry?
So that would be included to a person who loans money to somebody.
Loans money to someone.
Yeah.
That's what we discussed.
According to
And that by lending him money, he's able to
Get on his own
sustain
feet.
himself a livelihood.
that's
you know.
that's
Get
not
on his own 2 feet.
that's not also tzedakah. That's the Rambam says that's the greatest form of tzedakah possible. Yeah.
But it is part of the stuff.
No, to say it's part of tzedakah, that's you're shortchanging it. It's the greatest tzedakah.
That is stuff.
It-
It's a part of stuff.
It's the greatest tzedakah.
It's clear what's the sell. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They have someone to find the
Because you're
job.
gonna get the money
It's better than
back.
giving
It's
money.
gonna return the.
Are you getting the money back?
loan.
So then you loan it to someone else.
It's a loan, it means
Yeah.
that he's gonna pay.
But well, the person because he's able to make his own money now, he's able to pay you back. Now,
Tonight, Erev Rosh Hashanah, is the birthday of the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek is the third Rebbe of Chabad, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, of Baal Tanya. Yeah. So, so he was born in the year 1749. Tafkuf Memtes. No, 1789, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was born in 1789. He was raised by his grandfather. He was raised by the Alter Rebbe because his mother passed away when he was a young boy. Famous story with that the mother gave up her life for her father. Sorry?
He told us that once.
But Mizak, that the story that said is that the Tzemach Tzedek once, I don't remember the details of the story, but something along the lines of that there was a certain city, and the Chassidim in a certain city, and when they came for a Yom Tov, And the Tzemach Tzedek said, I don't understand. There's a shine, there's a light that's coming from the faces of the people in the city. And a lot of Orchim would come to Lubavitch, but you notice the people in this city, there's something holy that was radiating from them. And he wanted to find out, what is it? What is it? And he found out that the last time that these people came to the city, came to Lubavitch for Yom Tov. So at that time, the Tzemach Tzedek said a Maimer, and in the Maimer he spoke about the greatness of lending money, of Gemilas Chasadim. Kesef Talva Asami. The people of the city went home, and they weren't so, they financially weren't so
Lender.
so bad off. No, they were but they're like, we need to lend money. So everyone went and lent money to someone else, just for to be Mekayim, the mitzvah of. And the Tzemach Tzedek said that was the light that he saw, the light of Gemilas Chasadim that was shining on their faces. There was a Kabbalah soil. We need to lend money because the Mailam Kesef Talva Sami. Okay, so we did the first 10, and the first 7. We have another 8 Simonim left, and we'll do that in Mir Hashem next week. And then after Sukkot, we'll start Kunter Sachar. Okay. A good gebench Yar, Exilach Semateva, something Mesukah. It's going to be a special year, Mir Hashem. We're going to finish the whole Tanya this year.